Hello, everybody. Monday morning, another when the, oh my God, I can't even say when the shift hits the fan. Okay, today we're going to bust a really, really big spiritual belief, a really big one. But first, let me say this is part of the series When the Shift Hits the Fan, because I'm promoting my new book, Shift Calling, a practical guide to accelerate your spiritual growth that got a bronze award from Living Now Books Award for Spiritual Leadership. And on the screen, you can see where you can go to Amazon and order your copy. I'm also the creator of the Mystical Moment messages. Twice a week, I send bi-monthly mystical messages to inspire you. You can take a small little action to impact your day, shift your day. You can find them on my website. You can sign up at annagatmon.com. So let's dive in straight into the big, big myth that I am taking on today and busting today. The common myth is spiritual things have no value. Here today, gone tomorrow. And if I may add, if they're here today, gone tomorrow, the next place they go to is onto the landfill. That is such a common belief in spiritual teachings and traditional spiritual teachings, and the West has taken it on. Material things have no value. Keep your faith in spiritual things. Material things have no value. I want to say this myth has maybe done the most harm to the evolution of human consciousness, to consumerism, and to our planet. And so it's time to evolve this belief and let go of it, or if you prefer, to build on it and expand on it. Think about it just for a second. Material things have no value. Human creation has no value. Nature has value. Humans have value. But what humans create have no value? Here today, gone tomorrow? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. First, I want to tell you my own story and how I got from living a very material life to living a very spiritual life, and then coming back to a material, spiritual life that's balanced when I discovered the principle of spiritual material wholeness. So in my 20s, I was 18, I was discovered by a fashion modeling scout. And I ended up, instead of going into the military service in Israel for 2 years, which is mandatory for women too, I found myself in Paris working for Elle magazine and had a career for 10 years, an international career at the top of the fashion industry in Europe, walking the runway of Yves Saint Laurent and Jean-Paul Gaultier, working for the biggest magazines, and was living a very materially comfortable, successful life in Paris. Like, who wouldn't want to live in Paris for a decade, right? Now, it sounds glamorous. I was 18 when I arrived. I didn't speak the language. I had decided not to go to the military service, so I lost my passport and I couldn't travel, and I had some problems around that because it's mandatory. So I had some legal issues with Israel that I had to deal with. I was lonely. Modeling business is tough, not speaking the language, but I had my feet on the ground, head on my shoulders, and I was very lucky. I was on I worked for Elle magazine. My first job was a month after I moved to Paris. So I was fortunate and had an amazing career for a decade. But something was always missing for me. I was looking for something more. So I decided to leave the modeling business and go back to school. And really felt nourished by intellectual ideas and by different ways of learning and learning about education. I got a doctorate in transformative learning, which is how to create the conditions for individuals and groups and teams, how to create the conditions for transformative learning, to really have a transformational learning experience. And I was soaring and I was loving it. And it led me to homeschool my children, and it led me to found an elementary school for my children and other children based on an original educational model I developed. So I was clearly nourished and satisfied. I had left the material world behind. But guess what? I hadn't really left the material world behind because I was living in it. And it felt very odd to feel that split. I'm living in a material world, but it has no value. I'm living in a world that has no value, and I need to find my value in some other world that's not the material world. It just felt like a split between the spiritual and the material realms. And it didn't make any sense to me. But instead of something, instead of instead of thinking maybe something is wrong with this belief, with this common spiritual belief, I thought something is wrong with me. I must not be spiritual enough. When I'll be really spiritual, I'll renounce material possessions and I will lead and live a humble life. I will have no material desires. That's the aim of anyone who goes on a spiritual quest, a spiritual seeker, to live a truly spiritual life. And I was falling short because I'd lived in Paris, the country of craftsmanship. And I had seen the love and dedication and calling that people put into creating a baguette, a croissant, a beautiful outfit, magnificent architecture, theater, food, fashion, architecture, theater, art, gardening, just everything that's human created. France takes it seriously. It is a path of really making things with dedication, with love, making it a calling, putting your heart and soul into it. How can that have no value? That's what I was thinking. How can that not have value when I see something that is so beautiful that my heart sings, that I feel elated suddenly, that I feel exalted from listening to beautiful music or a beautiful theater piece or reading a book. These are all human creations. They cannot not have any value when people are putting their hearts and soul into it. Something is wrong with the belief that the material things are here today, gone tomorrow, onto the landfill. So I began kind of struggling, I was feeling the struggle between these two, mostly thinking that I'm just not spiritual enough. But then one day, I was visiting a friend who was having a birthday in the English countryside. And the room that she gave me where I stayed, I could open my eyes and raise my head a bit, and I would look out into a field of wildflowers. And in the distance, there were hills with dark green trees, and the skies were blue with um, clouds formations. It was just magnificent. And so one morning, I raise my head and I just look out and I go, I am so lucky. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed to open my eyes and have this view right here in front of me. And so what happened was this expansive sense of joy and bliss that I experienced as I was looking out at this beautiful nature that just lay before me there. And suddenly a thought popped into my mind. Now I know it's from the other side, a thought was planted in my head. And that thought was, nature has a material expression, right? The trunk, the trees, the flower petals, the grass, the different colors. That's the material expression of nature. But nature is also expressing a spiritual dimension, spiritual qualities, expansiveness, calmness, power, if there's a storm, grandeur, patience when you see a tree, a redwood tree like there are next to me, that's 2,000 years old. I mean, it's just, there's so many qualities that we consider to be spiritual qualities: patience, grandeur, beauty, expansiveness, patience. Those are spiritual qualities that we study when we go and study with a spiritual teacher, but here they are in nature available to us, and nature is emanating them. When we come in touch with nature, when we sit under a tree and suddenly we go, wow, this tree has such beauty, we connect to the beauty inside of us, right? At that moment, the beauty that we see in the tree awakens the beauty that is inside us. And suddenly we see beauty in the tree. It becomes one interconnected field of beauty. So I realized at that moment that nature is in perfect unity between matter and spirit, between the spiritual realm and the material realm. It's in perfect unity. And there's research today coming out of Stanford University, but also other places, the power of nature, the power of nature to imbue us with qualities that are of a spiritual and of an emotional nature. It's not just physical. There's research that if someone recovers in a hospital room after a surgery and they have a window with a tree outside that they can look at, they recover faster than someone who is recovering in a room from a surgery where there's a building or there's no window at all there. And there's many more research about the power of nature that goes beyond the physicality and the functionality of it. What the mystics and ecologists have known for centuries, science is catching up. And so I realized at that moment, and it was an aha moment, I'll tell you, it was, wow, nature is living in spiritual material wholeness, except when we humans mess with it, right, and spoil it. But nature lives in spiritual material wholeness. And so then another thought came into my head. If nature lives in spiritual material unity and spiritual material wholeness, we are part of nature. We are part of creation. We live in spiritual material unity and spiritual material wholeness as well. And that got me going on a whole path, discovering the principle of spiritual material wholeness. And so I've spoken in other sessions here before. Everything is energy in the universe, but not just energy, it's intelligent energy. We call it consciousness. And also, everything that has a manifestation in the material world has a blueprint of consciousness, of energy, of thought in the non-physical realm before it shows up in the material world. So if that is true, then all material things are an expression of consciousness, of some consciousness. They could be an expression of a consciousness of hate or of love, of ugliness or beauty, whatever we choose. And that when we say that material things are here today, gone tomorrow, we're saying that what we create, the magical beings that we are on planet Earth, when we are able to create a service, a product, a live stream platform that I can now live stream, I'm on 4 platforms right now. Human ingenuity. Why would that just be a material thing that we're addicted to because we're addicted to technology? Why isn't this capability magical powers that humanity ingeniously, collaboratively in teams is able to create. So people can connect, so people can learn new ideas and be inspired, so people can Google a remedy and heal themselves, so people can be in a family chat and connect with families all over the world, in Israel, in Sweden, in India, in England. Why is that just a material thing that's bad for humanity? No, this is human ingenuity. This is human consciousness. This is the magical powers that we have as creators on this planet to imbue the products that we're doing with our hands, with our ears, with our senses, with our intelligence, with our reflective capabilities, collaboratively in teams or by ourselves. They are an expression of our consciousness. So they are as magical and as precious as a tree, as a flower. We don't stop with nature is precious, humans maybe, and what we create here today, gone tomorrow. So now let's unpack that a bit as well. So, soil, we call it dirt. But everything on planet Earth, all of civilization, and I've said this many times before, is created from everything that grows above soil or within soil. Nothing is shipped from outer space. Our smartphones, many degrees of separation from soil, but still everything comes from soil. And soil is so sacred. It's not just dirt, it's not just grains of sand to walk on. It has magical powers, and it's matter. And it's matter that when it comes together, interacts with human ingenuity and creativity and a sense of calling and purpose, you create something magnificent. We also create something horrendous, and I want to talk about it in a second, but we create magnificent things. That is sacred. So a material world is sacred. Now, as everything is consciousness, when we create something without any thought, or with a thought just to benefit or to cheat someone or to make lots of money, but we don't care if it breaks, then that's the consciousness. That's the energy that we put in to the product and the service that we create. But when we create something with intention to bring beauty into the world, to bring caring for the customer into the world, when we truly try to imbue our creations, our professional creations and our personal creations, with qualities that we can pick, we can sit in a team meeting and pick the qualities that we want our service or a product to have, and it will have it. It will have it because we will put it in there. So in the design world, for example, there's an expression, design for delight, to have a delightful experience. And so that's why I think that smartphones are a delightful experience. Yes, we spend too many hours on them, but they're a delightful experience because they're designed for delight. Another example. It's easy to see it in this example. If you go on a retreat and there's a corner in the retreat center and you sit down there and there's a beautiful wooden bench that's carved and you see that it's hand carved. And there's a willow tree that's flowing and falling down. And there's some water, there's a little water feature and it's trickling water. You sit down and you experience peacefulness and tranquility. And you feel the release of all the tension that you've had for the past week or however long since you have been in a retreat or sat like this in a quiet corner. Now, this is not random. This is human creation. Collaborating with nature, collaborating with other people, getting a willow tree that flows like this, creating this sense of letting go. A beautiful bench that's built, that's carved, that's by someone. It has the qualities of beauty, of patience, of creating the time to create a beautiful line, maybe at the back seat. And when you see it, your heart is filled with joy at the beauty, at the craftsmanship. Those are qualities that are in the bench that you see in the line that is carved, the attention it was given, the dedication, the craftsmanship of the person, the hours of work, the sweat, the places where it didn't go well, and then they found a new way, and then finally this beautiful carved bench. All of those qualities, you don't think about it, you only see a bench. But when you have all of these thoughts about this bench, it's because it's imbued in that bench. And so you have access to spiritual qualities in a bench if you take the time to pay attention to the sacredness of a bench in a peaceful corner in a retreat center. And that relates to the tip that I'm going to give you in a moment of how you can find the hidden world within the material world. But let me first give you a few other examples. So, just looking here at my notes here. So let's take the clothes you're wearing. Okay, I was a fashion model. I still like dress to dress up on a daily basis. It's different than when I was a fashion model, but still, it's something that I like to do. You know, I had an interview today, and it's with it was with a someone who has a podcast in the UK, and we got mixed up with the hours because I was told it's at 9 a.m. and they thought it was at 8 a.m. because we had changed hours in the US on Sunday, right? So I had 10 minutes to get ready. And I told them, look, I thought it was in an hour and 10 minutes. It's in 10 minutes. Let me see if I can get ready. And before I did anything, I got myself all dressed up. Because once I got dressed up, and I'll tell you, I put my shoes on and I sat on my sofa and I felt I'm ready. I'm ready to show up. And every piece of item that I put on, you know, I just do it. I do it quickly, but every piece of item is imbued with an energy that builds up a field of how I want to feel. And so you too can take and look through your clothes and say, am I just wearing this to wear something? Or am I wearing this to feel in a certain way, to connect to a certain quality in myself? And so that's what I did today. And I sat there with my shoes and I thought, I'm here in my house. There's nobody else here. And I took 10 minutes. And the first thing I did was get dressed and be ready. And I'll tell you, it's not a video podcast, it's an audio podcast. Well, we decided to do it tomorrow because there was some technological things. But I sat there ready, feeling myself all ready to show up fully for an audio podcast. So that's what you can do with your clothes. Let me give another example here, which I often give, and it's in my first book as well, Living a Spiritual Life in a Material World. Um, I give the example of an accountant who is crunching numbers. You know, many times when we hear someone is an accountant, we go like, okay, that doesn't sound like an exciting job. Maybe if you like crunching numbers, it is, but most people would go like, well, that's not a inspiring job. Let's go into the hidden world of what accounting brings to a company. Let's open the door to the hidden spiritual world outside of the material world, but not outside, within the wholeness of it, within the unity. When an accountant has everything in order, there is order. And part of spiritual teachings is to have order, to have discipline, and to have order. When the accountant creates order, there is discipline, there is order, everything is in its place. There is calmness, there is peacefulness in the company because everything is in order. So here the accountant is creating order, peacefulness, is disciplined. These are all spiritual qualities, but we don't think about them when we're thinking about an accountant, and the accountant might not think about it. But here they are. The spiritual qualities are hidden in a material expression like an accountant. The accountant creates possibilities, boundaries, creativity, so possibilities for creative expression for the company. There's more money, there isn't enough money, timelines. So it offers the possibility for creative expression, for serving clients. Service. Oh, service is a spiritual quality. So the accountant, when they're crunching numbers, if they open up to the hidden dimension of their profession and creating a spreadsheet, suddenly what they're doing is precious. Suddenly what they're doing is sacred. Suddenly they're connecting to the divine consciousness of their calling, of their profession, of their actions, and the service they're offering to the company where they are working. So this is how the material and spiritual world are connected. And when we say that the material world is here today, gone tomorrow, it has no value, we are denying humanity, the spiritual value that exists in material things. So there's a few things to do. You want to check material objects around you and see, do they have a spiritual value for me, an emotional value for me? If they don't, then let them go. Maybe you'll consume less. When you see there's no value here, why would I want to have something that doesn't have any value? On the other hand, if you find value in it, maybe you'll consume less because suddenly you'll feel satisfied with an object that you have because it has more meaning than just the physical thing. And now you need 15 more of them because it's just a material thing. Suddenly it has a value. So here's, I realized that I didn't even check. Yeah. Okay. We're good with comments here. So I want to give you a tip, a practical tip, and then I'm going to tell you what the topic is for tomorrow, the last live stream that we have. So here is a tip. The intention is to look into the hidden work behind an object, the hidden value, the hidden spiritual or emotional value behind objects in your life. You can look at your clothes, like a clothes item, your shoes, a service you offer, an activity you do. I'll give you just an example, another example, so you understand, because we're so not used to seeing the spiritual value in our material objects that it's like, what? When I drive in my car, for example, to the supermarket, to the shop to buy food, I feel a sense of gratitude to my car because my car is driving me, is transporting me to nourish myself, my body, my family. So I have a moment of gratitude towards my car, which I direct directly to my car. So when I walk into my car the next time, and I've been doing this for a while, I feel that there is love in my car because I have put love in my car. So when I walk in, I sense that love that I've placed in my car in appreciation for my car, nourishing me and my family when I go shopping for food. Likewise, when I go to a speaking event, and I might be driving on the highway, and it's not always that beautiful and could be traffic. But my car is taking me to a destination where I can share my life calling, the purpose of my life. I can share the wisdom that is coming through me, like the principle of spiritual material wholeness. And I get to meet people, connect with people, and hopefully touch people so that they too can feel more enriched and less a feeling of like I'm living in a material world. What's the purpose of it? I need to go on retreats every 3 months or every 6 months in order to have a moment of respite, of spiritual value. So my car transports me to my calling, to connections with others, to inspiring others, to transforming others. My car has so much value for me. But you see, it's like it's a different value. And maybe, just maybe, traditional spiritual teachings meant that, but they never say that because they never talk about your car as having a spiritual value. But the car is made of human craftsmanship, of human ingenuity, of human creativity, of human labor, of human collaboration. I just said words that we all long for: creativity, collaboration, craftsmanship, ingenuity. All of those are things that we value and that we long for. They're embedded in your car. So walk into your car like sacred ground. So it is different than just acquiring material things, but it's opening the door to the hidden world of those material things and discovering what other substance is in the material thing but whatever metal or plastic is there. What else was put into the material things that you're consuming, that you're using, that you are interacting with, that you are producing, that you are offering, serving with? There is a hidden world within the material world. And once we make that connection, we might consume less. We might find love and beauty and wisdom and connection in objects in our workspace or in our home space. Sorry. And we might feel less isolated and alone and just living this material life that's going mad in the world right now. And we might treat nature differently because we might see how so sacred soil is, and everything that grows above it is, and everything that grows within it is. So, just to be clear, the tip is look for the hidden world within an object. It can be a simple object. It can be a simple object. It can be the earbuds that I have on. It can be the live streaming platform that I'm on. It can be the mic that I have here to my left. It can be anything in your life, in your workspace, in your home space, in the activities you do, in the objects you interact with, the most mundane things, in your clothes, your glasses, whatever it is. And allow yourself to open the door and see what is hidden inside there. Is there anything of spiritual or emotional value for me in that? I mean, you purchased it, you got it, or you're working there in the office there. So is there something of spiritual or emotional value in what you're focusing on? And if there is, see what it is. What quality is it? What does it bring out? A memory, a story, why you bought it, what it connects to you, what it says about you, what it reminds you about in yourself, or what it reminds you about somebody else, or about your capabilities, your talents, your unique gifts. Take some time to look for that and you will be so enriched by the material world around you. I guarantee you that. So try this out, and let's go to what's tomorrow. I'll say one last thing. I have, since I discovered the principle of spiritual material wholeness and have practiced it, I have seen a hidden world within the material world has opened up for me. And I can live in spiritual material abundance. And I want to specify it's spiritual hyphen material abundance. It's not spiritual abundance, material abundance, separate things. It's spiritual material abundance together. Because everything that I hold in my hand that's material has a spiritual value. And I'll say one last example. Even when I hold a spoon in my hand to eat, a spoon is created, right? It has wisdom in it. There's a quality of wisdom in a spoon. Who thinks about that? A fork has wisdom and ingenuity in it. You can pierce into something and pick it up. There's wisdom and ingenuity hidden in a fork. If you take a moment to look at your fork and I'm chuckling just because we don't think of it, and you go, wow, that is so genius. I wondered who created the fork. Who thought of that? How did it evolve from spears to forks? Suddenly, you're connecting to human ingenuity, to wisdom. And suddenly you're in a different place. It's not just a fork. It's a fork that has value beyond the what we call the material, and it imbues the material with those values. It amplifies it, and it sends it back to you when you interact with it. Just like my car, when I walk into it, I get a shower of love because there is such a loving relationship with my car, which is not about material, but it's about the unison of and the unity of spiritual and material. So, tomorrow is our last live stream of When the Shift Hits the Fan, promoting my book, Shift Calling. And so let me say, in my book, Shift Calling, one of the parts is shifting your probabilities to accelerate your spiritual growth. And there are a few principles there. And one of the principles is the principle of spiritual material wholeness and how it works, as I shared with you today. So go check out the book, check out the reviews. And if it's for you, get the book and in digital form or printed form. And if you write a review, I'd be so grateful. It's so helpful for people to know, is this a book for me or not? And the reviews really, really help for that. Tomorrow, we're going live again, 10 a.m. Pacific time, USA. Last time, it's the final day of my promotion week for my book, Shift Calling. And we are going to close with a topic that is from anxious and depleted to energized and engaged. We are feeling so much depleted these days when we're watching the news and really horrors that are going on in the world. There's so much anxiousness. There is a mental health crisis in many countries, in the US for sure. There's so much anxiety. And so I want to end with focusing on that and how to move from feeling anxious to engage, from depleted to energized, and how some of the principles, like the principle of spiritual material wholeness and the principle, the expansive principle that I speak about in my book, Shift Calling, how they can help you move clear within minutes from feeling anxious to engaged, from depleted to energized. So I'll see you tomorrow here again. Blessings to you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy and appreciate the material world around you. It was created by someone. It's somebody's calling. It's somebody's ingenuity. It's somebody's craftsmanship. Blessings.